coming back undefeated. Was that more than you expected?
No, I think we went away hoping to come away with 2 strong wins, and we did that, and we felt like we probably didn't play as well as we absolutely could, but we're happy with the result.
Obviously, New Zealand game, it's always tough. There was a lot of criticism on Irene van Dijk's form in the New Zealand media. How did you see it?
Well, actually, I think she's still an absolute force. In one of the games, I think she only missed 1 goal and shot 35 goals. So I think it's pretty harsh, but, you know, she's such a threat to us, and we always have to work really hard to shut her down. And luckily enough, we did that at this test.
Playing both New Zealand and England, tell us a bit about their playing styles.
Slightly different playing styles. New Zealand play a lot more offline defence with putting on the zone that they're famous for, I suppose. And England we found to be very much like our style of play this time around. So they've come a long way, and obviously they beat New Zealand in their first test, so they were a really strong force.
Anyone to watch in the England team?
Cookie, who is their goal attack, she had a fantastic game against New Zealand and against us as well as their centre court have really stepped up as well, we thought.
Okay, being sisters, do you get to room together?
Very occasionally they allow us to room together, but not all that often, no.
Nat, do you really want to room with your big sister?
Well, after spending a lot of years in the same house, I'm happy not to room with her.
Okay, a bit of inside gossip about the team. Is anyone with bad habits? Anyone who snores or messy?
A few people snore, but it's always debatable and no one will ever admit to it. But no.
Yeah, I'd have to say Laura's one of the worst ones, because she always has to borrow my clothes because she never remembers to bring everything.
At least you can borrow each other's dresses. And what about superstitions? Do you have any?
No, we always have a firm policy that you make your own luck. So some people do tend to be a bit superstitious, but we always they always get shot down, so you make your own luck.
So just recapping, the Australians completed the clean sweep and an extremely successful tour with a convincing 7-goal victory over the hosts, England. In upcoming international matches, Australia plays a pair of games against Jamaica before taking on the Kiwis, who are in a bit of a form slump, which is concerning our friends across the Tasman, given they are hosting the World Championships later this year. Tickets for these matches are on sale now, and you can check your local guides for telecast times. Well, after the disappointment of a narrow loss last week, Firebirds coach Vicky Wilson has demanded a 4-quarter performance from her Chargers. But it's never easy in Sydney, even though the Swifts are still slightly undermanned. James Coventry has the story of last night's match.
Having taken all before them during an 18-match winning streak, the Sydney Swifts have shown a vulnerable side over the past fortnight in losing their past 2 games. To a certain extent, the Swifts have been a victim of their own success, with their mini-slump coinciding with the absence of 5 of their players on international duty. Tonight against the Queensland Firebirds, they welcome back 2 of those stars, Monia Gerard and Susan Prattley.
It'll be really good tonight to have Monia and Pratts back. They'll be starting the match, and how long they stay out there will depend on how they're feeling, and it's entirely up to them.
How big a difference can they make?
I think it'll be really good to have a couple of older and more experienced heads in there to guide some of the young ones around, so I think they'll make a big difference.
The Firebirds are also looking to break a 2-game losing streak, but know it won't be easy against the reigning premiers.
Well, we haven't had the best of runs in the last couple of weeks either, so I think for both teams they'll both be looking, obviously, for that win. Without the 3 Australian players, Ellis, Cox and Gilsonen, certainly they'll be missing them, but I'm sure the others who step on the court will be trying to make a good show of it.
Members of the Australian Rugby Union team were part of a packed crowd at the Sydney Sports Centre for the match, and the locals would have been happy with their team's blistering start. Prattley was showing no signs of jet lag, and Erin Bell chimed in as Sydney opened up a 10-goal quarter-time lead. Vicky Wilson needed an answer and quickly, and she found one in shooting powerhouse Joanne Morgan. The veteran goal shooter was the chief architect of a stunning second-term fightback, shooting an incredible 18 goals from 21 attempts. The Swifts were suddenly all at sea as the Firebirds sailed to a 30-28 half-time lead. The third quarter was a fierce arm wrestle. Morgan found herself under more pressure as the 2 teams got physical. When Prattley goaled on the stroke of 3-quarter time, the score was locked at 43-all, and the stage was set for a dramatic finale. Sydney grabbed some breathing space with back-to-back goals early in the final term, but the momentum seemed to shift when Prattley went down with an injury scare. She was okay, but Queensland could sniff an upset. The time was against them, and when Morgan couldn't sink a buzzer-beating goal that would have tied the score, Sydney held on for the narrowest of victories, 58 to 57. The Firebirds were left to ruin their slow start.
Absolutely, that first quarter we just let them get away, and to come back from a 10 or 11 goal deficit for the rest of the game is really tough, and we brought it back and showed a lot of guts, but just right at the end a couple of things didn't go our way and the scoreline shows 1 down to us.
It was, I think, some of the tensest netball certainly that we've had this year.
And it must be great to get a very important win like that for you.
It is a very important win. It's important in terms of the table, but it's also important to us because I'm really glad that the young ones got a couple of the players back, but still some of those young ones like Adelaide and Erin got to go out there and play a full game under such a tense situation and do so well.
You've got a quick turnaround. You've got a game on Sunday. Is it going to be hard to back up from such a hard game like that?
There's no doubt in the world it's going to be really hard to back up, but I'm hoping Sunday's a big occasion. It's a very important game. It's a double-header in Melbourne. I'm hoping the adrenaline of Sunday will get us through that, and then we'll think about what we do for next week.
So the Swifts triumph in an absolute thriller by 1 goal, whilst for the Firebirds, further disappointment as they slumped to their 3rd loss in a row. Last night's other match was in Newcastle as the Canberra Darters travelled to take on the red-hot JAEGERS. The Hunter JAEGERS were expected to employ the same high-pressure tactics that upset the Sydney Swifts last week. Could the Darters counter them? ABC's Jenny Bates was there.
The Hunter JAEGERS were full of confidence after last week's win over the Sydney Swifts, while the Darters were coming off a disappointing loss to the Melbourne Phoenix. The home side had a slightly easier week in training in preparation for a double-header this weekend, but they weren't going to go easy on the Darters.
The girls are primed and they were looking pretty keen in the change room just a moment ago, so yeah, we're pretty confident we'll do a good job tonight.
In their last clash, the JAEGERS beat the Darters convincingly, but the visitors weren't daunted by the task ahead.
We feel ready to take them on. Definitely, obviously, JAEGERS are confident. They had a great win last week, so they are coming in confident. But certainly, the AIS Darters are really keen to put out their best performance. They were disappointed in the way they performed last week, so they want to rectify that and show what they really can do out there on court. And I think JAEGERS get great crowds here to the game, so we've talked about, it's a great arena for them to perform.
The JAEGERS came out strong and dominated the first few minutes of the game. 5 minutes in, the score was 6-0. The Darters had several opportunities to get points on the board, but were unable to score, giving the JAEGERS the chance to establish a good lead. But the Darters made up some ground later in the quarter, with the goal-shooting team of Janelle Lawson and Leah Shord bringing the quarter-time score to 14-10.
All right, Lara, where are you? Goal attack. Okay.
The second quarter saw Lara Wellham come on as goal attack for the JAEGERS, a move that paid dividends as the home side expanded its lead. Goal shooter Karen Bailey's impressive performance continued, but for a few rare misses under pressure from the Darters' defence, taking the half-time score to 33-21. The Darters came out with fresh determination in the second half. After an injury scare for Canberra wing defence Samantha May, the visitors put pressure on the home side mid-court, but it didn't stop the JAEGERS from keeping their lead into the final quarter. Karen Bailey scored an impressive 10 points from as many attempts, leaving the Darters 9 points behind at the three-quarter break.
Coming to the ball, though. So a couple of times you wait for it to come to you, you must keep driving through and to the ball.
The visitors came back for the final quarter with Jasmine Keane as goal shooter and were ready to close the gap. But the combination of Lara Wellham and Karen Bailey in the JAEGERS circle proved to be a crowd favourite, scoring several goals in quick succession to keep their side ahead. A last-minute goal attempt by the Darters did little to improve their position, leaving the final score at 55 points to 47.
Lost it there in the first and then brought it back again in the second quarter. We let it go again, so we've just got to be intense the whole 4 quarters and not let it slip.
The win gives the JAEGERS new confidence heading into Sunday's match against the Kestrels.
Wins always help with your confidence. It's a really important weekend for us, this one. So, yeah, we're quite happy to have had a good result and we'll go down to Melbourne with some quiet confidence.
A comfortable win to the Hunter JAEGERS by 8 goals locks them in the top 4 once more. For the Canberra Darters, unfortunately, they'll be holding up the table for another week. Now onto the main game for round 5, and we're in Perth to see the Orioles take on the Thunderbirds. The hosts were full of confidence after a morale-boosting win in round 4, but the Thunderbirds have regained 3 of their stars from Australian duty and look to have the edge in class. Eloise Southby-Helbish and Sam Dennis join me in commentary. Cody Blaze starts proceedings for the Perth Orioles. They're in the green strip.
They're starting one-on-one defence, the Thunderbirds, trying to be tight, particularly trying to block out Caitlin Bassett's shooter.
Contact keeper.
And she's got the ball early. This will be good for her confidence.
Always nice to hit your first shot.
Well, here are the starting 7 players for each side. The Perth Orioles, Caitlin Bassett, and partnered by Nicola Smith. Stacey Rosman, Cody Blay, Helen Riolo back for her first game in a long while, Larissa Wilcox and Melissa Johnston. Whilst for the Adelaide Thunderbirds, it's a familiar team. Bianca Reddy, keeper, Fiona Poynton, Peter Scholes, Natalie Von Berto, Laura Von Berto, they're back, Natalie Medhurst and Kristen Hughes. But it's a great start early for the Orioles. They led it by 2.
Thunderbirds uncharacteristically made an error, and the Orioles have certainly capitalised on that.
Advantage obstruction, centre.
Presenting well early was Smith. Bassett is infringed upon. She's 3 for 3. She had a great game last week, leading her team to victory against the Queensland Firebirds. A crucial away win, the Orioles' first victory for the season.
The Thunderbirds love to move the ball around, get the quick hands going until the space opens up for their shooters.
3-1. Home side, the Orioles leading early. Travelled just under 2 minutes in this opening quarter from Perth.
The Orioles really need to work it down on top of the circle and then feed into their superstar shooter in Bassett.
Will she be tempted from long range? Why not?
Why not when you shoot like that?
Well, we said they'd be full of confidence, the Orioles, and that's exactly how they've started. But the Bombertos know how to team up through the centre court.
Absolutely fantastic drive there by Laura Von Berto, hitting the top of the circle. Every young wing attack centre player should look at these girls and have a look how they play. They're brilliant.
And almost forcing a turnover was Natalie Von Berto.
Hold keeper.
The Orioles retain possession, and Bassett with another opportunity.
That is a really tough call there by Deb Farrelly.
Contact
On
keeper.
Reddy, she's really getting a tough time here because you really got to try and muscle and get your body around, and she's saying she's leaning in and pushing, but, you know, we're playing National League.
Bit of physicality's all right, you reckon, Ella?
Yeah, I love it. Oh, tried by the Orioles' defence.
The Thunderbirds retain possession close to a held. Called. Fantastic work from the keeper. In fact, it was the goal defence there, Larissa Wilcox it is. And the Orioles keeping the ball alive. Desperation. Helen Riolo. Now Rossman. She's working overtime.
It's still one-on-one defence here from the Thunderbirds. They're trying to put the pressure on, but the Orioles have kept possession.
Bassett, great start. 6 for 7, 86%. She shot 81% last week against the Firebirds. The Orioles, very quick start. That was one of the things we spoke about in the opener, that the Orioles would need to make a quick start. They have been slow out of the blocks so far this season. And it's 7-2. Coach Sue Gordian would be absolutely thrilled.
Well, the way Bassett is shooting, Orioles just have to keep possession off their centre pass and turn a few over in the defensive end, which they'll try to do now.
And there's just so much pressure on the Thunderbirds goal shooters as Medhurst converts, but they're having such a hard time getting the ball in there.
They are, and it seems like they're not doing enough workloads prior to getting the ball. They've got to try and lose their defenders, and who knows, that could be because they are a bit tired down there. The 3 attackers were away for Australia.
And Natalie Medhurst, the 4th person in that attacking third, she's had a pretty heavy workload while the other 3 have been away. She's starred for the Thunderbirds so far this season.
She has, and she's a very creative player, very smart.
Here's Bassett. The number 8. And she's doing all the work herself. Nicola Smith has yet to have an attempt on goal.
But I think she's doing enough. She's opening up the circle and allowing Bassett to take those high balls, so doing a good job.
Contact.
It was a contact just as, the defender was leaning in, so
Really, after she let go, that she got another attempt.
Orioles leading by 4. Very high percentage shooting from both sides. Thunderbirds yet to miss. The Orioles shooting at 90, just under 90%. Medhurst under pressure, has to go back a long way. The Orioles defence working overtime.
Thunderbirds are certainly doing their straight drives, and that's, I think, something they're not doing the dodges and losing their defenders. I think they're going to concentrate on that as they get into this match.
Keep off the side, not in front.
The umpire's not happy with Johnson not being exactly out of position.
How frustrating is that for a player when you get told to move 1 inch?
It's sort of, I think it's up to the goalers to say if it's really bothering them, really. Don't worry, I tell them if someone's leaning in too close to me. I'm like, hey, move it back.
Got no doubt you would. That was better movement than the Thunderbirds. Medhurst.
Well, both defenders went back onto Hughes, which freed up Medhurst.
Thunderbirds have scored the last 3. There's Coach Sue Gordian. She's looking a little bit concerned, but her team has started in a sensational fashion. They lead the Thunderbirds by 2.
Well, knowing Sue, she'd be playing every ball as her girls are out there playing, so that's why she's sitting there thinking, go for it, do this, but obviously not wanting to show that to the public.
Well, it's her first season as coach of the National League side, so big challenges for her. The Orioles just held up a fraction by the Thunderbirds, but they worked their way through patiently. Now Rossman with great position. Smith with her first attempt. Did she step?
Yeah, Bassett being called for a contact there on Reddy.
Too violently looking for position. Riolo running off well.
Fantastic work there to open it up, and Medhurst, brilliant timing there.
Let's have a look at that great work from the Thunderbirds once again. It was Hughes into Natalie Von-Berto, and then Medhurst with a drive to the post. 8-7, the margin's back to 1. Halfway through the opening quarter. This to tie it up. Kristen Hughes.
Great offer under the post.
The Thunderbirds, I should say, yet to miss. 8 for 8. 4 points the margin, 4 goals the margin, I should say. The Thunderbirds in front of the Orioles. The Orioles had a very bright start. They led by 5, now trailing by 4. Smith under pressure. Bassett had the drop on Reddy.
I'm really impressed by the way Smith is actually driving hard at the top of that circle, because one of the defenders then has to go to her, which opens up a one-on-one for Bassett. Bassett's now 10 from 11 at 91, having a great first quarter.
Oh, great pass there from Medhurst. Threaded the needle to Hughes, and she doesn't let her down. Minute remaining in the first term. 5 is the margin in favour of the Thunderbirds. Here's Smith. The Orioles finally force a turnover. Riolo's having trouble getting into the game. It's her first game, first TV game for a while. She, of course, was injured last year. I think she's also got married, better known to probably many of our viewers as Helen Aravides.
Now, the Orioles have been having trouble in this area.
As Natalie Von-Berto goes down and she's hurt, she appeared to cop a knock to the face. Five goals on margin in the Thunderbirds' way. Here's Scholes. Von-Berto throws it away.
As I said before, the Orioles are having trouble over this attacking transverse line to get the ball through. Great pressure by the Thunderbirds.
We need to rectify that, because every time they get the ball to Bassett, she's money. She's just knocking everything down. 11 for 12, Caitlin Bassett in the first quarter. Only 10 seconds to go. This will be an important goal for Smith. She makes it. No score.
That was a tough call as well.
Held ball. Was there time for the Thunderbirds?
Contact, goal defence.
I think they will get this one last attempt to Medhurst. 2-goal swing if she makes it. Well, that must knock the stuffing out of the Perth Orioles at quarter time. They had a chance to get the margin back to 3, but instead it's 5 at quarter time. Adelaide 16, Perth 11. Second quarter action from Perth. The home side, the Orioles, trailing Adelaide by 5.
Gee, that was a tough call there on Johnson. She's questioning exactly what she did.
Here's the change. Nikki Forak in for the Perth Orioles, and Cody Blay has a seat on the bench. Quarter time.
Nikki Forak is known for her speed and game sense. She reads the play well, so that's what Sue Gordon is asking her to do. Read it well and feed well into her goalers.
She need to be quick to try and run Nat Von Berto off her feet. Was Nat Von Berto popped a heavy knock in the first quarter, but she bounced up to her feet very quickly. And her team have bounced out of the blocks in the second quarter very well. They now lead it by 7. They've scored the last 3. Bracketing quarter time. They've silenced the crowd too well, haven't they? They was very loud in here for the first 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, they have, and that's the thing. The crowd have really got to get behind their girls, the Orioles, and try and keep pumping them up to take a few intercepts, because they're still in that match. It's only a few turnovers and you can catch up in the game of netball.
Well, the turnover stats are costly, 10-4. And that's certainly a negative stat for the Orioles. Under pressure here again, Riolo. Teaming well with Nikki Forak. Looking to Bassett. No, go instead to Smith. Oh, good. She's competing for the rebound, but Poynton had best position. Clean hands once again from the Thunderbirds through the middle.
Great movement by the Thunderbirds. They're not on top of one another. They're finding a lot of space and using all areas of the court to open it up.
Hughes will have another attempt. Johnston infringing. We'll be able to see on replay, Ella, exactly what you're talking about, the spacing from the Thunderbirds.
That was a good pick up by Laura, and it was a tough call actually on that defensive effort.
Von Berto found Medhurst.
Oh, that looks like a short 3.
The feet T-Birds. Hit the margins into double figures. Penalties, the penalty stats always make ordinary reading for Sue Gordian and the Orioles, 25-10.
And there's 13 to Johnson and 8 to Wilcox in their defensive end. So, as I said before, they've got to be in play to stop these Thunderbirds goalers.
What do you put it down to? Is it the pressure or inexperience, or is there something else?
Well, they're probably having a good go at everything, but there's a fine line between wanting to be put out of play and also adjusting to an umpire's call. Like if a call, sometimes a 3 feet distance can be quite different between each umpire. Sounds weird, but it's a way that they interpret it and call it. So you've got to be able to adjust quickly, which probably they aren't doing.
Bassett has 15 goals in this contest, 15 of the 17 for the Orioles. And once again, slick movement from the Thunderbirds. So underway, 6.5 minutes, 12 goals to the margin, a change for the Orioles. Susan Furman comes in, replacing Melissa Johnston at goalkeeper. And they're forced to turnover. But has it gone back again? It does. Peter Scholes just extended her arms.
Well, she's got go-go gadget arms. That's what we used to say. They just come out from nowhere. You don't think she's got as long arms as she has.
Great positioning from Medhurst. Furman with the lead. As we see the turnover at the other end, the Thunderbirds lead by 13.
Great tip here from Stacey Rosman. And then they throw it away again, which is disappointing because you want to capitalise on each turnover you get.
Well, they've worked so hard for the few turnovers that they have forced. But so it's 13-6 against the Orioles in that category. And unfortunately, it's just not good enough at the moment for Sue Gordian's Chargers. But there's so long to go in this match, and we are concerned that Thunderbirds might run out of steam. They're key players with the travel weariness.
They could tire, and that is the question that everyone's asking. So it'll be interesting to see. As we see, great defensive tip then by Reddy and picked up by her teammates around the edge of the circle.
And I guess the other thing, Ella, is with the form as the Thunderbirds are just so quick, just running rings around their opponents. The form that Caitlin Bassett's in, you probably don't, the Orioles probably don't need too much to go their way because she's capitalising on everything. But so is Natalie Hughes. Natalie Medhurst, I should say, down at the other end. She still hasn't missed.
Oh, well, it's great. And Hughes, it's great for her that she's at 89%. And Norma Plummer probably had her to the post every day over on the England tour.
I think there might have been a phone call and a few extra drills involved. Another turnover. There goes an opportunity. Rossman did well.
It's a great pick-up, nice fighting touch there on that transverse line.
Rossman patient. Involving her teammates. Nikki Foret needs to be quick. Pass it to a teammate under all sorts of pressure. Poor option. Lombardo. Her sister was free on the other side of the circle. That's where it goes now, and then back into Hughes so quickly. Susan Furman's the tallest player in the National League at 196 centimetres. But it comes to nothing when she's out of play, Ella.
Well, exactly, and that's what she'd be there for, to get that arm up on those shots and try to be a presence.
Here's Nikki Forak. She'll have another opportunity to find Smith and Bassett. Looking for the taller player. Not quite able to reel it in.
I don't think Nikki Forak feeds the ball as well as Belay and Rosman to Bassett, so that might be an area as well that Sue Gordian will look at.
There's Tanya Ops. Very satisfied Thunderbirds coach. Her team has scored the last 6. The margin out to 17. And it's just happened so quickly. There's class on every line in this Thunderbird side. There's no doubt about that. Hughes. Fed beautifully once again from Bombardo Furman. Well, I thought she'd got that one clean, Ali. You're shaking your head.
Yeah,
not sure if it's at the umpire or something else.
Deb Farrell is calling distance. But what is it contact on the arm? But she's oh yeah, she's signal distance. Contact, I think. But that was what I was questioning, whether it was distance, because she didn't move at all. And that looks like about 10 feet distance. Well done, Scholes.
She's so quick, those first 2 steps. And then the reach. Wins the ball once again. 18 turnovers to 8. Most of those have been forced by the brilliant defence from the Thunderbirds. Riolo struggling to lose the tag from Bomberto. And the pass too hot to Rossman.
They're really struggling, the Orioles, to get that the ball down over that transverse line into their attack end. They're just putting out terrible passes, as we see. Great intercept there.
And Bassett finds the target. Should say Riolo's pass finds the target in Bassett. She let her teammate down, but luckily was bailed out by the umpire.
They're always the worst ones, can I give you a tip? When you get those high long calls in, you think, I've got to sink this because it's only this far away. Pressure, pressure, pressure.
There's Medhurst again. Quietly accumulating goal after goal. She's up to 18. Thunderbirds to 37. Their lead is 18. A nice symmetry there. Bomberto takes the tumble. Smith.
Not afraid to take the long shot, and Smith sinks it, so well done, great shot.
17 points for margin, 17 goals. Here's Hughes. Furman, intensity all over her face.
There's great little give off there from Hughes to Medhurst. They've got a great, you know, knowledge and sense of where each other are, and just a little dish made it a shorter shot.
Smith having to go a long way from home to get possession. So too Bassett.
Bassett's out of the circle, and that doesn't happen often for the Orioles. She's normally planted firmly in that ring.
Well, the zone that the Thunderbirds seems to be employing is just impenetrable.
Go straight down the guts, and the umpires called it no goal. Time was up.
Well, that is time. That is half-time. And a sensational second quarter from the Adelaide Thunderbirds. They extended their lead by 13 goals. It's now 18. The Thunderbirds 38, the Perth Orioles 20. Third quarter at the Challenge Stadium in Perth. The Adelaide Thunderbirds leading the Perth Orioles by 18. And the Thunderbirds starting off in exactly the same vein as they did in the first half, except ordinarily Kristen Hughes would make that count. As we check out the changes for both sides, the Orioles with 2 changes. Beveridge in at goal attack, Smith into wing attack, and Gilmore is on at goal defence. For the Thunderbirds, Beaton is on at goal defence, and Fiona Poynton has a rest.
This is the first game for Beaton, so she'll be a bit nervous out there, but I'm sure she'll be in with this lineup. You know, you can't go wrong. You just got to go out there and play strongly and go for everything.
The Orioles driving forward. Here's Bassett, short. He's a long way out. Beveridge working hard though, doing her best to improve in her first moments off the bench. Bassett converts and they tap each other on the shoulders. Well, they might. We see Beveridge just desperation and found Bassett with the pass. That was great play. Great combination from the Orioles shooters.
Well, how tall are these two girls? Beveridge 192 centimetres and Bassett 192. Good luck in defending that.
44-27, the Thunderbirds' way. 6.5 minutes remaining in the third quarter. The margin was 5 at quarter time, the way of the Thunderbirds. 12, sorry, I should say 18 at half-time, and Bassett drains a monster from the perimeter of the circle. Margin back to 16. Orioles doing a good job in this third term. Well, certainly a much improved job.
Goalers starting together for the Thunderbirds. The umpires called deliberate obstruction and gave the Thunderbirds a free pass inside the circle.
Riolo knocking it away from Vomberto, but she stepped offside. Medhurst working beautifully.
Keep her obstruction from behind. Where you are now, goal attack.
Obstruction against Furman. Medhurst with a clear shot, short. Just rolls in.
Orioles.
She's having a great night and a great season, Natalie Medhurst. Averaging 90, she's shooting at 93% for tonight and 84% for the season. She's in the Australian squad. There's great interception from Gilmore. We'll come back to Medhurst in a moment. That was fantastic anticipation from Gilmore.
She read it early and had a go at that first ball.
Beveridge, can she find Bassett?
Advantage contact and offside centre.
That was better play. Smith, and then into Bassett, converts. And we'll see what set this play up for the Orioles. It was the interception there from Gilmore. And they've got another opportunity. Nikki Forak couldn't reel it in.
It was a pretty average pass from Smith, and I hate saying that, but just put Nikki Forak under too much pressure. She had about 3 defenders on her.
I guess that's the composure that we're talking about. Nicola Smith, 20 years of age in her first season at the Orioles, having spent some time at the AIS.
Advantage obstruction, goal defence.
It's great when the Orioles work it to the top of the circle. It does open up for their shooters.
And it's pretty hard to get a rebound when Caitlin Bassett's around. She's athletic, she's tall.
Well, both Caitlin Bassett and keep going for those rebounds. It's good. She just gets those tips it to herself.
16 the margin, 4 minutes remaining in the third.
Where you are now.
Infringement against Furman. So many penalties, double the penalties, 48 to 24 against the Orioles.
And Furman has 10 of them at the moment. Quite a big statistic for her.
Well, especially considering she only came on partway through the second quarter, so she's probably only been playing just over a quarter. There she is, Susan Furman. She's an imposing presence on the court. Bianca Reddy down the other end. Almost pulled off a great interception, but the referee said she was backing illegally into Bassett, causing the contact.
I think Bassett's hurt her finger on that pass in. It's probably jarred her.
She should just loosen it up with a few more
oh no, they sting.
attempts.
You know, it's like a football hitting or a basketball. It always pops. Yeah.
Medhurst continues on her merry way down the other end as Sue Gordian preparing for another change at the last interval. Just over 2.5 minutes remaining until three-quarter time. The Orioles have won this quarter by 1 at this stage. They're leading this quarter by 1. Nikki Forak looking to drive it in once more. Shoot! Scholes, where did she come from? Nikki Forak looked at the ball and said, how did that happen? She had no idea that Scholes was around.
You just don't realise how long her hands are, and she'll jump when you're not even looking and get into place.
But that was, I was about to say that's better movement from the Orioles, but I turn it over as we see, there she goes, Scholes.
She came from behind but jumped at 3 feet and was able to flick it to her advantage.
Quick pass into Bassett, thumped away from her.
Reddy was going for the punch over the back. It's a good move in football.
Just like all good fullbacks. Not that you'd know anything about that.
Oh no. Dad had me out the back, you know, jumping over things. Only then I decided to be a shooter, not a defender.
Probably a great decision as Bassett converts. More glamorous anyway, Caitlin Bassett. Her percentage has dropped a little bit since quarter time, but she's been under significantly more pressure.
Well, Reddy's one of the top defenders in this competition this year and playing very good netball, so she's up against a tough competitor and someone that will give 110% no matter how much height she gives up.
Bassett gets the ball in a great position that time. I think that's one of the things that she's been forced further and further away. That time, she was good enough to get the ball in best position. There's another turnover. Well, certainly defensive, the Orioles is ranked up. Well, perhaps it's a sign of the Thunderbirds fatiguing. A lot more turnovers from the Thunderbirds this quarter. The differential in that category, only 10. It was up as high as 15 earlier. 17 the margin. The Thunderbirds' way. 50 plays 33. Orioles just slipping through their fingers.
It's just sloppy play like that. Like, you do have to put it out in space, but you've got to be aware of the player being able to catch that. And, you know, Kate Beveridge isn't certainly the fastest person out there, and putting her that far out under pressure is probably not on.
Need to move it quick, the Orioles.
Strong take.
Before it. Only seconds remaining. Bassett, catch and shoots. Poor old Georgia Beaton was just beaten for height there, really. Bassett just reaching over the top. She gave it her best.
She needs the stilts. She's got to call for them at this break.
Well, it is three-quarter time here at Challenge Stadium in Perth, and it's the Adelaide Thunderbirds holding a commanding lead over the Orioles, 50 to 34. Final quarter in Perth. The Orioles have a task ahead of them. They came from behind last week to beat the Firebirds, but they'll have to come from 16 down and now 17.
Great shot by Amanda Martin, who is a co-worker of mine for AFL Sports Reading, so good to see her out there.
Well, she's on the court in the final quarter, but first of the changes for the Orioles, we see Larissa Wilcox is on there at wing defence. The remainder of the players have stayed the same. Changes for the Thunderbirds. Amanda Martin into goal attack. Medhurst moves to goal shooter, and Kristen Hughes, I should say. That's enough for her. She's done her job tonight. She'll have a rest for the last quarter.
Oh, surely she wanted to hyphenate like me and go Heinrich Hughes.
We'll have a discussion off here about the hyphenated names.
She wouldn't. It takes too much. It's too much. Everyone gets it wrong.
Eloise Southby-Helbish, of course, joining me in commentary. Sam Dennis on the sidelines and Todd Miller, our statistician, giving us all the important numbers. Beveridge fighting very hard with Beaton for the ball.
Great feed. She looked in. That's the first thing as a goal attack. You should look into your other shooter first for the option, and then if it's not there, you fling it out. But good, well done, good placement.
Amanda Martin taking possession from the centre pass. She's been moved into that goal third. And will partner Medhurst up front as the held ball down there against Medhurst. But Martin's been a fantastic replacement for Hughes, Eloise, when Hughes has been away on Australian duties.
Well, it's
very
been
consistent.
a great opportunity for her to get out there because she hasn't been able to play that many matches over the past few years. So well done to her for getting out there and stepping up into that role.
Well, she's 24 years of age, so she's not extremely young by anyone's standards, as the Thunderbirds still moving the ball with such fluency. Medhurst can't convert though. But Martin has only played 15 games despite being 24 years of age.
Well, in the past it has been that the two goalers they've had for the Thunderbirds in Medhurst and Hughes have done so well they haven't needed to use anyone else.
Medhurst just getting frustrated. Furman reaching over the top, stealing that ball. Wilcox with a bullet. Found Smith. But Smith gave it up too easily.
Just great defence by Nat Bomberto and Peter Scholes there. They just absolutely were sitting right on their players, giving them no option.
16 is the margin at three-quarter time. That is still the margin 3 minutes into this last term.
More than anything, Laura Bomberto looks so fresh tonight.
Well, since half-time, the Thunderbirds have not held the same dominance. They led by 18 at half-time. The margin is 16. And it's interesting that the Thunderbirds haven't actually lost the last quarter all season. So they've prided themselves on their fitness throughout the pre-season and coming into the regular season. And so I don't think that's a stat that, I'm sure that's a stat that they'll want to keep up.
Good try by Georgia Beaton then to come out on that centre pass. Had a go at the first ball. Kate Beveridge coming from off-court onto court and not taking full 2 feet onto the court before she caught the ball, so it's called coming off court. That really didn't make sense. It was just a whole lot of bumper jumble. Sorry, everyone at home.
Oh, we'll make sense of it. Kate Beveridge, though, disappointing night for her. She seems to have struggled. She's had 5 now, 6 turnovers, almost. No, the ball tapped out of play by Scholes. And only 3 attempts on goal for 2 successes from Beveridge, so she hasn't played the whole match, but it has been a night where not much has gone her way. She's, of course, an under-21 representative for Australia. Promising young player for the Orioles.
Emergency for the last Commonwealth Games in Melbourne as well, so I've roomed with Kate a few times during all the training camps.
Margin still 16, Thunderbirds' way. Great work there from Furman. But as has happened through most of the night, the ball's constantly fallen the way of the Thunderbirds.
Step forward, centre. Thank you. Where you are now. Next to the centre.
And how many set plays would each side have in their armoury?
Oh, well, each team's different,
Yep.
but, you know, probably off a centre pass, there's plenty of options, 6 or 7 of them that you could possibly do.
3 minutes remaining in the match. The Lightning have scored the last 9 goals in a row and looking for number 10 here with Medhurst. Sorry, I should say the Adelaide Thunderbirds.
Too used to calling the basketball,
Absolutely,
aren't you?
in the basketball mode.
But you know what? They've got a bit of lightning strike somewhere in their logo, haven't they?
Well, they have, and they're moving the ball like lightning tonight.
obstruction.
Great shot there by Amanda Martin.
67 plays 38, the highest score for the Thunderbirds this season, surpassing the 65 they scored against the Firebirds in round 3. They've scored the last 11 for a team from Adelaide. That run is finally snapped by the Orioles. The crowd getting involved, wanting to give their team some cheer because they're sending them off tonight. The Orioles are heading over. Next week they play the Sydney Swifts away from home, so that will be a very tough game.
Will be, because all their 5 Australian players will be back in that lineup.
Back from their sojourn over to Paris.
Yeah, it's very interesting, that one, not to be back in time for their match tonight.
That is contact.
Offside called against Laura Von Berto and Natalie Von Berto, but no offside. I think it was contact first. 29 points. There's Tanya Ox, the coach of Adelaide. She'll be thrilled with this performance. They came here, I guess, not really knowing what to expect from their key players, how tired they'd be, what sort of shape they'd be in after their trip, after their tour of the UK, and fantastic anticipation from Wilcox. Couldn't reel it in. The Von Berto sisters and Hughes haven't even been home to Adelaide. They flew direct into Perth.
Well, it was probably better to come straight here and acclimatise for a few days and get a few good sleeps rather than go home, go to work, get on another plane, come back to Perth. So in speaking with them, they all decided that this would be the best opportunity for them to feel the best and play well, which is what they've certainly done tonight.
Martin converts. 30 goals is the margin. They have extended that from 16 at three-quarter time. It has been a dominant final quarter performance, making all of us who thought that the Thunderbirds might tie, it made us look a little bit silly.
Well, there's always the chance, the off chance. You're saying for the Orioles, hopes you'd hope that they are, but...
And that goal from Kate Beveridge may just be the final act. It is. A comprehensive display from the Adelaide Thunderbirds at full time. They've thrashed the Perth Orioles by 29 goals. 69 the Thunderbirds, 40 the Orioles. Only 2 matches remain to complete round 5, and it's another doubleheader in Melbourne as the Kestrels host the Jaegers and the Phoenix play the Sydney Swifts. We'll have all the action from those matches in next Saturday's show. But before we get to that, we'll be at Etsa Park in Adelaide for the grudge match between the Thunderbirds and the Melbourne Phoenix. Sparks always fly between these proud clubs, so tune in at 8 o'clock next Friday on ABC2. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to bringing you more action next week.